Well, look, I've been in the medical field my whole career. I was a professor at Johns Hopkins and a professor in the School of Public Health. There's a catechism that you're supposed to say as a doctor to recommend all vaccines. There's some group people that have never seen a vaccine they don't like. We had disasters with the anthrax vaccine, with the H3 swine flu vaccine, with other vaccines that have been pulled off the market, like the rotavirus vaccine. So we're using both gold standard science and common sense. For example, the rotavirus vaccine, which is not in our core essential vaccine schedule. That vaccine reduced the number of deaths per year in the United States from 3 to 2 with mass vaccination in the United States. And earlier in my career, that vaccine was taken off the market for safety concerns. So you look at those numbers and you can understand why a parent might want to say, ooh, 72 shots for my kid by the time of 18. I don't feel comfortable. We don't want them to go to no shots. We don't want people to have anti-vaccine sentiment. So we are saying, here are the core essential vaccines that have a profound impact. And then there are other vaccines where you can get them, but have a conversation with your doctor. They're not as critical. Well, we have about double the number of vaccine shots than the UK. So the idea that somehow we are, in line with the rest of the developed world is simply not true. In France, for example, you have to be 80 years of age to get the COVID shot or have a risk factor nowadays. We had still had a vaccinate all approach, including young, healthy kids every year, so that a 6-year-old girl needs another 65 COVID shots for the rest of her life. We're just saying that shot is not the same as the importance of a Hib shot. We're creating a hierarchy to meet people where they're at because we want to see a greater uptake of childhood vaccines. The measles vaccine has declined in its uptake over the last 5 years. Why? Because I think public health officials used a lot of arrogance and dogma to tell toddlers to wear a cloth mask for 3 years, to shut kids out of school for 2 years, and to ignore natural immunity. People are skeptical. They saw the kind of arrogance and dogma. And now we're dealing with low vaccination rates. We want to see those higher. And that's why we're identifying a group of core essential vaccines. So we had a commission from the president to look at vaccine schedules from other countries that are developed, wealthy countries. And we looked at 20 vaccine schedules throughout Europe and parts of the world. And what we found is that we are an international outlier in the United States with the number of shots we recommend, 72 doses for most kids. And most countries are in the 30s or less. And so what we really did is not tell people not to take vaccines. That's not true. Anyone can get any vaccine they want, and they're going to continue to be paid for. But what we did is create a hierarchy because we want to increase child vaccine adoption rates. They're dropping. They've been dropping throughout the years of COVID. There's been skepticism about public health. There's also some vaccines on there that people don't recognize are not as critical as others. So we created a list of core essential vaccines, creating a hierarchy, because we've got to meet people where they're at. We want people to get their measles shot and polio vaccine and pneumococcal vaccine and Hib and other vaccines. But when you suggest that a COVID booster in a young, healthy kid is as important as a polio vaccine, that's where we've lost some public health trust. I think of it in terms of this. 40% of women who should be getting a mammogram are not getting a mammogram. They have their reasons. They're concerned about radiation or the discomfort or inconvenience. I don't agree. I think it's safe. But we've got to meet them where they're at and maybe offer an ultrasound that can pick up 95% of breast lesions that a mammogram can pick up. We can't use this all or nothing approach. So what we did with this revised vaccine schedule is get us closer to the rest of the world and let people know there are core essential vaccines that we think are most important. In other words, there's a hierarchy of vaccines.
Respond to that.
Well, look, unfortunately, you're going to hear this partisan rhetoric. I would tell him, where are these mass outbreaks in Denmark and parts of Europe? This new core essential vaccine list, which is not saying we're going to only recommend these core essential vaccines. It's just giving parents a hierarchy of vaccines because not all vaccines are created equal. We're trying to increase vaccine uptake among children by identifying a list of core essential vaccines that are the most important. It's about 30-some shots in one's childhood as opposed to 72. 30-some is better than than zero. We don't want people at zero. We've seen vaccination rates in children go down in the Biden years because of the dogma of ignoring natural immunity and cloth masks on toddlers for 3 years and shutting kids out of school. A lot of dogma resulted in a loss of public health trust. We're trying to rebuild that trust, and we're giving parents a hierarchy of vaccines. We're still recommending all the vaccines. They're still all covered, but we're giving them a hierarchy to say these are the core essential vaccines.
Okay.